Chapter 21-26. Chu Qianyi gritted his teeth and held on. He does not wish for all his previous efforts to go to waste. He would never be able to forgive himself if he were to fail at such an important moment for Tiangang's sect. However, the pressure was simply too great. Even though he had gritted his teeth, the waves of attraction were still pushing him to the brink of collapse. However, in an instant, all of the pressure disappeared without a trace. He could not help but pant heavily. It was a good thing that he had held on. Otherwise, only medicinal dregs would be left in the pill cauldron. Once Chu Qianyi had relaxed, he could not help but observe his surroundings. He noticed that Shengguan Yufeng no longer looked as high-spirited as before. On the contrary, his face was extremely pale as if he was suffering even more than before. Chu Qianyi could not help but feel happy when he saw Shengguan Yufeng's state. However, his heart was filled with curiosity. He could not understand why the formation had suddenly disappeared and how Shengguan Yufeng had ended up in this state. Qi! Qi! Qi, qi, qi. The sound of the pill cauldrons being destroyed could be heard. The medicine sect's pill masters were greatly affected after the formation had been destroyed and could no longer control the pills in their pill cauldrons to continue refining. As a result, the sound of the pills being destroyed could be heard one after another. Aside from Shengguan Yufeng, the medicine sect's pill masters had all been wiped out. This sudden turn of events caused everyone present to gasp involuntarily. Just a second ago, the medicine sect's pill masters had been acting wildly. However, in the next second, because of Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, Shengguan Yufeng was the only pill master left in the medicine sect who was bitterly holding on. Bailey Hongzhuang had single-handedly fought against the entire medicine sect. The disciples were all dumbfounded. They simply could not understand what had just happened. They only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had managed to solve this unsolvable problem with just a single move. Damn, isn't Bailey Hongzhuang a little too awesome? Who was the one who had said that Bailey Hongzhuang was useless? Step forward. I'm going to beat him to death. This is far too domineering. Her mental strength is enough to fight against all the medicine masters in the medicine sect. The disciples who were originally full of doubts and distrust towards Bailey Hongzhuang no longer had any doubts at this moment. Not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang's alchemy skills, just her mental strength alone was something that no one could compare to. Chu Qianyi and so many others were unable to do anything about the medicine sect's actions, but Bailey Hongzhuang was able to resolve all of this on her own. Just this point alone was enough to show how powerful Bailey Hongzhuang was. Moreover, since Bailey Hongzhuang was able to solve the problem that Chu Qianyi and the others couldn't, it proved that Bailey Hongzhuang's understanding of alchemy was even deeper than theirs. If they were worried that Bailey Hongzhuang would bring shame to Tiangang's sect after she stepped onto the high platform, now they felt that they were frogs at the bottom of the well. Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly the one who saved Tiangang's zone from a complete defeat. She was Tiangang's sect's hero. Xia Jiqing and the others were dumbfounded when they saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. They had always known that Bailey Hongzhuang was very powerful, but she had never been this powerful before. Chapter 21-27. This senior sister is so domineering. I'm dumbstruck. The Tiangang sect is indeed powerful. I really hope I can become a member of the Tiangang sect. No wonder this senior sister caused such a commotion when she went up on stage. She's the most outstanding alchemist. The cultivators beside Lu Qinyue were filled with envy. They had admired the Tiangang sect for a long time. Today, they saw that the Tiangang sect was simply too powerful. Lu Qinyue's gaze fell on Bailey Hongzhuang. It seemed that her previous judgment was wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang would always be the focus of everyone's attention no matter where she was. She had a special ability. No matter what kind of platform she stood on, she would always be the focus of everyone's attention. In the past, she was also arrogant because she was also an existence that received a lot of attention. However, ever since she met Bailey Hongzhuang, she realized that she was only the light of a firefly. Bailey Hongzhuang was the light of the sun and the moon. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang walked up the stage in a low-key manner, she was always able to remain calm in the face of everyone's mistrust. In comparison, she did not have Bailey Hongzhuang's powerful psychological quality. Once someone questioned or denied it, it would affect her performance. Therefore, she envied Bailey Hongzhuang. After seeing Bailey Hongzhuang's performance, the 4 hall masters were dumbfounded. The originally certain defeat had been completely rewritten because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Hall Master Qin, your hall's Bailey Hongzhuang is truly amazing. Isn't she hiding it too deeply? Azure Dragon Hall Master Yan Kaicheng's eyes were filled with surprise and joy. Previously, he did not receive news that Bailey Hongzhuang was going to participate in the alchemist competition. It turned out that Bailey Hongzhuang was a hidden trump card. Hall Master Qin, your Vermilion Bird Hall has made a great contribution in this alchemist competition. White Tiger Hall Master Qi Yinghan smiled. The entire Vermilion Bird Hall would reward this kind of contribution. However, at this moment, they were truly happy. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, they wouldn't even dare to imagine the failure today. Qin Ai's face was full of smiles, but there was a hint of guilt in her smile. He thought that the sect master had allowed Bailey Hongzhuang to go on stage just to train her. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually an existence that turned the tide? Such a Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed worthy of being the granddaughter of the sovereign. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were also stupefied. Even they felt that this was an unbreakable array, but Bailey Hongzhuang actually managed to break it in such a short time. It was truly shocking. Yunxiao, our daughter is actually so powerful. Mu Lingbing couldn't help but whisper softly. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes today, it would have been such a pity. Lan Yunxiao's eyes flickered with excitement, and his heart was surging with emotions. Such a Bailey Hongzhuang was so outstanding that it was unimaginable. When Bailey Hongzhuang was born, he wanted to nurture Bailey Hongzhuang into an outstanding person, but he simply didn't have the chance. However, without their nurturing, Bailey Hongzhuang was still able to grow into such an outstanding person. How could he not be excited? His daughter didn't fall into depression because of the persecution from back then, which was an indescribable comfort to him. Hongzhuang is destined to be the center of attention. Chapter 21-28. The nervousness on Di Beichen's face has disappeared and was replaced by a thick smile. Hongzhuang has given him a huge surprise. Even he would not be able to break out of this situation, but Hongzhuang was able to do it. She is such a mysterious woman. Ha! Situ Yen burst into laughter at the sight of this. The medicine sect had really gone for wool and come home shorn. Now, only Shengguan Yufeng was left in the medicine sect to hold on. The rest of the pill masters have been utterly defeated. All this while, he had always thought that he would do his best to fulfill Hongzhuang's wishes. However, he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to turn the tide in such a disadvantageous situation. Gu Weisheng had schemed against him time and time again. This time, he had completely slapped him in the face. Sect Master Gu, it seems that your plan is not that great after all. The consequences of this backlash are not small at all. Situ Yen calmly mocked Gu Weisheng. He still remembered Gu Weisheng's arrogant face from just a second ago. Now, he naturally wants to return the favor to him. Gu Weisheng's expression has turned extremely ugly. His eyes were fixed firmly on Bailey Hongzhuang, and the malicious light in his eyes could not be concealed. They were supposed to win this situation without a doubt. However, because of an unexpected Bailey Hongzhuang, she had ruined everything. He had never expected such a situation to occur. The strangest thing was that even Situ Yen could only forcefully break through such a formation. However, Bailey Hongzhuang had been able to locate the formation's eye. This was an impossible task, yet Bailey Hongzhuang had managed to do it. Most importantly, even if she had found the formation's eye, her mental strength would not be able to fight against the combined mental strength of Shangguan Yufeng and the rest. This was why he believed that they would definitely win the alchemist competition this time. However, where on earth had the Tiangang sect managed to find such a strange person like Bailey Hongzhuang? For her to be able to find out about such an obscure matter, her mental strength must be abnormally powerful. How come he had never heard of such a person before? Gu Weisheng couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. No one would believe that he had failed miserably at such an easy task. Facing Situ Yan's ridicule, Gu Weisheng could only swallow his anger. Who asked Situ Yan to have the upper hand now? He could only swallow this grievance himself. After all, he had previously used these words to shut Situ Yan's mouth. However, he did not expect that it would be his turn so soon. If it weren't for this Bailey Hongzhuang, Tiangang's sect would definitely lose this time. Chu Qianni and the other alchemists of Tiangang's sect also understood at this moment that the reason they were able to escape from that predicament was entirely because of Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, they were deeply grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. If it wasn't for Bailey Hongzhuang, they would have definitely lost this time. In just a short period of time, Bailey Hongzhuang had already changed everyone's impression of her. At this moment, no one was unhappy with Bailey Hongzhuang anymore. On the contrary, it was Bailey Hongzhuang who had saved everyone's face. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Shangguan Yufeng who was struggling in front of her. Although she was standing behind Shangguan Yufeng, she could still feel the hatred in Shangguan Yufeng's eyes. Those who are unjust are doomed to destruction. All of this was caused by Shangguan Yufeng and the rest. Chapter 21-29. Bailey Hongzhuang has always had only one way to deal with despicable people who use such despicable methods: give them a taste of their own medicine. Then, Bailey Hongzhuang's lips slowly curled into a disdainful and playful angle. Soon after, Bailey Hongzhuang's mental energy gushed out once again in front of everyone's shocked eyes. Looking at Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, the faces of all the people present changed. Gu Weisheng's eyes were fixed firmly on Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Previously, Bailey Hongzhuang had completely destroyed the formation. What is she trying to do now? Gu Weisheng could faintly sense a bad premonition. This Bailey Hongzhuang is definitely not the type to stay still. Now, only Shangguan Yufeng's pill has not been destroyed among all the pill refiners in the Tiangang sect. He only needed a little more time to successfully refine this pill. However, Bailey Hongzhuang has suddenly made such a strange move. What kind of trouble is she trying to stir up? In contrast to Gu Weisheng's worries, Si Tuyen and the others were staring curiously at Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, they are no longer worried about Bailey Hongzhuang's abilities. They were only curious about the consequences of Bailey Hongzhuang's actions. Bailey Hongzhuang's mental energy spread across Chu Qianni and the others' bodies as the crowd watched on anxiously and curiously. The cultivators from the medicine sect were shocked and they sensed the others' mental energy once again. However, after a careful examination, they realized that Bailey Hongzhuang's mental energy was peaceful and did not pose any threat to their mental energy. On the contrary, after their mental energy had merged with Bailey Hongzhuang's, their mental energy had become even more powerful and they could control the situation in the pill furnace with greater clarity. Chu Qianni and the others' eyes lit up when they realized this. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would help them in this way. With this kind of spiritual power, they could almost guarantee the success of refining the pills in the pill furnace. However, Shangguan Yufeng did not feel as good as Chu Qianni and the others. Bailey Hongzhuang's array formation continued to attract his spiritual energy. This kind of attraction was much stronger than the array formation that they had used before. His mental strength had already been damaged before, and he was barely holding on. Now that something like this had happened, he couldn't hold on any longer. When Si Tuyen and the others saw Bailey Hongzhuang's actions, their hearts were already in turmoil. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be able to do this? It was simply too shocking. This kind of method was simply unheard of. However, the feeling of giving someone a taste of their own medicine was pretty good. Gu Weisheng looked at Bailey Hongzhuang as if he had seen a ghost. Even he had only seen Bailey Hongzhuang's formation in ancient books, but he didn't know how to use it. However, he had actually seen it on a member of the younger generation. She was actually able to use such a formation. This was simply too shocking. At this moment, Gu Weisheng understood that they would lose without a doubt. Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly well versed in this art. Furthermore, her abilities were on a higher level than Shenguan Yufeng and the others. They were no match for her at all. Junior sister Bailey is too domineering. This is simply unheard of. Junior sister Bailey must have been too low-key in the past. How could the young sect master's favorite be a mediocre person? Chapter 2130. The faces of the medicine sect's alchemists had turned into the color of a pig's liver. Yesterday, they still had the right to be arrogant, but today, they had become the target of everyone's ridicule. Under such circumstances, even if they wanted to maintain their arrogance, they could no longer do so. This feeling of humiliation had ceased to exist from the day they had become alchemists. However, today, in front of all the other sect's disciples, they had to relive it all over again. The culprit was Bailey Hongzhuang. Gu Fengyan stared furiously at Bailey Hongzhuang and his heart was filled with fear. When the sect leader had first passed this method to them, they were simply shocked and felt that the other party had no other way out other than to fail under such circumstances. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was able to destroy it. At least, he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it at all. Bailey Hongzhuang's terrifying mental strength made one blush with shame. As compared to Bailey Hongzhuang's calm and collected face, he was even more shocked. This woman was so young and had not revealed her abilities, but she actually had such abilities. Just like what eldest senior brother had said, Bailey Hongzhuang was the real variable. This woman was as elegant as a lotus and had an outstanding temperament, just like a fairy who had descended to the mortal world. She was indeed not an ordinary person. This woman's status was probably higher than theirs. Previously, he had thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was probably here to train. Now that he had sensed Bailey Hongzhuang's mental strength, he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills were definitely not bad. As an alchemist, he was well aware of the importance of mental strength to an alchemist. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills were not powerful enough, her room for growth was absolutely shocking. His gaze fell upon Shenguan Yufeng, who was struggling to hold on. He understood that Shenguan Yufeng was already at the end of his rope and would not be able to hold on till the end. This time, all their plots had failed in Bailey Hongzhuang's hands. Chi! A soft sound was heard and Shenguan Yufeng's expression changed greatly. The sound of the pill being destroyed could be heard from the pill furnace. The smell of burnt flesh entered Shenguan Yufeng's nostrils. His face turned pale and ugly as if he could not accept this result. In the next moment, Shenguan Yufeng suddenly turned around and his gaze fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. His eyes, which were filled with rage, glared fiercely at Bailey Hongzhuang as if they could not live under the same sky. This time, he had come with glory, and he would return with glory. However, he had been humiliated to the extreme. As the eldest senior brother of the medicine sect, he simply could not accept this outcome. Now that the pill had been destroyed, it was already too late. He had been completely defeated. He did not even have a chance to compete. If he had to be, he to Bailey Hongzhuang. This was because he had absolute confidence in his alchemy skills. Even if Chu Qianyi succeeded, he might not be able to compete with him. However, everything has now been reduced to nothingness. There was no longer any possibility. Bailey Hongzhuang remained calm and collected as she faced Chu Qianyi's enraged and violent gaze. If the medicine sect had not done this first, she would not have given them a taste of their own medicine. Chapter 2131. The medicine sect's sect master, Gu Weisheng, has an extremely ugly look on his face. He has lost a great deal of face today. Many sects are aware of the medicine sect and Tiangang sect's alchemist competition, and I'm sure that everyone is concerned about the outcome. In terms of pill refinement skills, the medicine sect already had the upper hand in this aspect. However, they had lost under such circumstances. If news of this were to spread, their reputation would be completely ruined. At this moment, even Gu Weisheng himself did not know what to do. They had been completely wiped out. This result was simply too much of a slap in the face. Situ Yan's face carried a calm smile. Gu Weisheng had brought this upon himself. However, Heng Zhuang's actions have truly stunned him. If Heng Zhuang had not participated in the alchemist competition today, they would have been completely wiped out instead. He was not concerned about the medicine sect's reputation being completely ruined. The most important thing was that Tiangang's sect had achieved a complete victory. He would like to see if Gu Weisheng would dare to play dirty tricks on him in the future. Even though the medicine sect's alchemists had been completely wiped out, it was too late for them to refine pills again. Unless they were to refine low-grade pills, wouldn't that be a slap in the face as well? Hence, the medicine sect's alchemists could only stand on the spot and feel the crowd's disdainful stares. These stares were as uncomfortable as being pricked by needles. However, they could only endure it. Bailey Hongzhuang, Chu Qianyi, and the rest of the medicine sect's alchemists continued to refine their pills. They were almost done refining their pills. Once they have finished refining their pills, the alchemist competition would be over. After the time it takes for a joss stick to burn, a thick fragrance quietly filled the air. Upon smelling this fragrance, the cultivators present could not help but greedily take a deep breath. They felt refreshed. A smile appeared on Chu Qianyi's face. He had not disappointed his expectations and had managed to refine a pill. A grade 6 ice spirit pill. Initially, based on his level of power, there was a high chance of failure. However, with the help of Bailey Hongzhuang's mental energy, everything had gone smoothly. He was truly grateful to Bailey Hongzhuang. If it had not been for Bailey Hongzhuang, how could everything have been completed so smoothly? Shangguan Yufeng knew that Chu Qianyi had refined an ice spirit pill the moment he smelled the pill's fragrance. However, when Shangguan Yufeng found out about this, the anger in his heart grew even stronger. This was because the pill that he had refined was of a higher grade than the ice spirit pill. As long as he could refine the medicinal pill, then he would undoubtedly win this round. This sect's alchemist competition's loss in this competition. The medicine sect's medicine refiners were naturally able to tell as well. Their expressions had turned extremely ugly. If they had known that this would happen, they would have refined it properly. That way, such a problem would not have occurred. Annoyance of the medicine sect's heart pills sect's heart, alchemists. Gu Weisheng's eyes were sinister, and a feeling of regret sprouted in his heart. If they had known earlier, they could have easily won this battle. Soon after, another thick pill fragrance filled the air. This pill fragrance came from Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining cauldron. Shangguan Yufeng and the others couldn't help but frown when they smelled this unfamiliar yet fresh scent. How come they had never smelled this kind of pill fragrance before? Chapter 2132. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang had refined an even higher grade pill? When this thought surfaced in Shangguan Yufeng's mind, he himself felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. How was this possible? Bailey Hongzhuang was only in her teens. If she was able to refine a 6th grade pill and above, then her innate talent was simply too terrifying. His innate talent was already known as a rare genius. Could it be that Bailey Hongzhuang was even more talented than him? After Gu Weisheng smelled this pill fragrance, he also frowned because he had never smelled this pill fragrance before. A look of suspicion surfaced in the eyes of the pill refinery hall's hall master, Sun Yin. He was extremely knowledgeable about pills, but he had never smelled this pill fragrance from the pill that Bailey Hongzhuang had refined. Hall Master Sun, do you know what kind of pill Bailey Hongzhuang had refined? Qin Ai asked with a smile. Ever since he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang's performance on the high stage, he had become even more curious about Bailey Hongzhuang. Now, he only felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refinement skills were probably extremely outstanding. Otherwise, she would definitely not be able to do what she had done previously. That's right, Hall Master Sun. What kind of pill did Bailey Hongzhuang refine? Gu Jingqing asked curiously. Now that their Tiangang sect had won this alchemist competition, they could not help but pay attention to the grade of the pill that Bailey Hongzhuang had refined. I have never smelled this pill fragrance before. Sun Yin spoke out his thoughts. Once these words were spoken, the 4 hall masters were all stunned. They could only wonder if they had heard wrongly. Sun Yin's attainments in pill refinement were extremely terrifying. Even he did not know what Bailey Hongzhuang had refined. Immediately after, Sun Yin's next sentence made them even more astonished. This pill fragrance is very similar to the pill fragrance of the Return of Spring pill recorded in ancient books. However, the Return of Spring pill has been lost for many years. Furthermore, it belongs to the category of 6th grade pills which are extremely difficult to refine. Sun Yin frowned slightly. He had a faint feeling that this medicinal pill was the rejuvenation pill. However, because it had been lost for too many years, he did not dare to believe it. Bailey Hongzhuang was so young, how could she have grasped the lost pill formula? Gu Weisheng suspiciously looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. This pill fragrance was very similar to the fragrance of the rejuvenation pill. Could Bailey Hongzhuang refine such a level of lost medicinal pill? One had to know that with Bailey Hongzhuang's age, wanting to concoct a 6th-tier pill was already an inconceivable matter. What's more, the rejuvenation pill's grade wasn't far from a 7th-grade pill. Refining lost medicinal pills was much more difficult than refining ordinary medicinal pills because there was no one to guide her. If Bailey Hongzhuang could really refine it, then this Bailey Hongzhuang's potential was too terrifying. I've heard that Chu Qianyi had refined the ice spirit pill. I wonder what kind of medicinal pill Bailey Hongzhuang had refined. I don't know, but I feel that Bailey Hongzhuang's medicinal pill shouldn't be of a low grade. Look, even the alchemy hall master is pondering. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang has really amazed the world with a single brilliant feat. The group of disciples looked at Bailey Hongzhuang with smiles on their faces. Now, they were no longer as nervous as before. Regardless of what kind of medicinal pill Bailey Hongzhuang had refined, they had already won this round of the alchemist competition. After Bailey Hongzhuang had successfully refined the medicinal pill, she stood quietly to one side and waited for the alchemist competition to end. Chapter 2133. After all the alchemists had finished refining their medicinal herbs, second Elder Qiaoying's voice rang out. Hall Master Sun and Elder Du, please inspect the results together. In order to ensure the fairness of this alchemist competition, Tiangang sect and Medicine sect had agreed to send one person each to inspect the results of the pill refinement. However, saying such words now was tantamount to another slap to Medicine sect's face. How was this inspecting the results of the disciples from both sides? It was clearly inspecting the results of Tiangang sect's disciples. Du Feiyang's expression was even more awkward and embarrassed. He originally thought that inspecting the results of the disciples at this time should be a very honorable thing to do. Who would have thought that it would be such a situation? Now that he had stepped up, it was really a slap to the face. However, this was something that had been agreed upon long ago. No matter how unwilling he was, it was meaningless. In the next moment, Sun Yin and Du Feiyang walked up to the high platform of the alchemist competition and inspected the pills refined by the disciples. Su Jin, Grade 5 Clear Heart Pill. Chen Yi, Grade 5 Shadowed Heaven Pill. One by one, the grades and names of the pills refined by the alchemists were read out. Although Tiangang sect was not known for pill refinement, Tiangang sect was a sect that developed in many aspects. Therefore, the results of the pill refinement hall had always been very good. Even Du Feiyang had to admit that Tiangang sect's strength was indeed not bad. A 5th-grade alchemist, this was already an extremely good level. As long as they continued to develop, their achievements in pill refinement would definitely not be simple in the future. As the Tiangang sect disciples listened to the grade 5 pills one after another, their expressions were filled with pride. As Tiangang sect's disciples, they had always been proud. This time, medicine sect wanted to crush them in pill refinement but was crushed by them in the end. They felt even more elated. Gu Fengyan's eyes were filled with disdain. It's just grade 5 pills. Look at how proud they are. It's as if no one can refine it. If this problem did not occur, there would definitely be no problem with his pill refinement. However, now that he had to endure such humiliation, it was really infuriating. Shangguan Yufeng's face was ashen. Didn't you fail to refine it? Now that they had lost, no matter what they said, it would be a joke in the eyes of others. Since he was destined to be laughed at, he might as well speak less to avoid being caught by others. Hearing Shangguan Yufeng's words, the indignation on Gu Feng's face deepened, but he hesitated to speak. He refused to accept this. However, such a result was not convincing at all. As everyone knows, the medicine sect's pill refinement skills could be said to be peerless. Now, they have been defeated by a sect that specializes in cultivation. This was a great humiliation. None of them were willing to admit it. But now, he could only endure it. At this moment, Shangguan Yufeng only wanted to know what kind of pill Bailey Hongzhuang had concocted. Chu Qianyi was not his opponent. From the very beginning, he did not put Chu Qianyi in his eyes. What he cared about was Bailey Hongzhuang. From the moment Bailey Hongzhuang appeared, he already felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was extraordinary. Now, it could be seen that Bailey Hongzhuang was no ordinary person. Chapter 2134. He felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely a formidable opponent. Every part of her was extraordinary. Most importantly, he could not determine the type of pill that Bailey Hongzhuang had refined. Du Feiyang and Sun Yin slowly walked in front of Chu Qianyi. Sun Yin then picked up the white porcelain bottle that had been placed in front of Chu Qianyi. When he saw the pill inside, his face couldn't help but reveal a satisfied smile. Chu Qianyi had always been a disciple that he was proud of. At such a young age, he had already become a grade 6 alchemist and his character was also very good. As long as he was properly nurtured, he would definitely become a disciple who could hold his own in the pill refinery hall. Within the white porcelain bottle was a grade 6 ice spirit pill. It had been refined very well and there were no flaws at all. It was very satisfying. After Du Feiyang had inspected it, he did not have any objections. Following that, Sun Yin announced the final result. Chu Qianyi, grade 6 ice spirit pill. When the words grade 6 ice spirit pill were announced, the disciples of Tiangang sect burst into cries of surprise. Although a grade 6 pill and a grade 5 pill seemed to only have a difference of 1 grade, pill refinement skills were the same as cultivation. The further one progressed, the more difficult it was to raise one's grade. The difference between a grade 6 pill and a grade 5 pill was just as great. The price was also doubled. Chu Qianyi had refined a grade 6 pill. This result was extremely outstanding no matter where one went. Chu Qianyi's face was filled with a joyful smile. Originally, because of this alchemist competition, his heart was under immense pressure. He was afraid that he had let down the palace lord's heavy responsibility. If he had made a mistake in his performance, the entire Tiangang sect would be humiliated. Hence, he had not been able to rest properly for the past few days. Fortunately, the final result was extremely good. Fortunately, he had managed to hold on. Finally, Sun Yin and Du Feiyang walked in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. In reality, before the start of this alchemist competition, they did not have any understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang at all. Sun Yin only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang was the young sect master's sweetheart and had obtained first place in the assessment. Other than that, he did not know anything else. Hence, he only knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had a certain amount of talent in cultivation, but it had nothing to do with the alchemy hall. However, after what had happened, he no longer felt that way. Originally, he should have checked the pills refined by Bailey Hongzhuang before going to see Chu Qianni. After all, Chu Qianni was the most promising person in the competition. However, under such circumstances, Sun Yin had a faint premonition that Bailey Hongzhuang might be the final character. Du Feiyang wasn't dissatisfied with Sun Yin's arrangement because even he felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was the most important person in this alchemist competition. Sun Yin and Chu Qianni slowly walked to Bailey Hongzhuang and stopped in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang just stood there quietly with an elegant smile on her face. Du Feiyang took the lead and picked up the white porcelain bottle in front of Bailey Hongzhuang. He had long been curious about the pills refined by Bailey Hongzhuang. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's age, it was simply inconceivable for her to be able to refine pills of a very high grade. However, based on Bailey Hongzhuang's display of mental energy, her pill refining skills were definitely not bad. Hence, this was an extremely contradictory situation. Chapter 2135. This was because he had never seen this pill before. As an elder of the medicine sect, he had seen countless pills and knew them like the back of his hand. However, he had never seen this pill before. Du Feiyang was certain that this pill was not of a low grade as he smelled the refreshing pill fragrance. Could it be that there was a pill that he had never seen before? Du Feiyang continued to ponder as he handed the white porcelain bottle over to Sun Yin. Sun Yin took the pill and examined it carefully. Previously, he had felt that Bailey Hongzhuang had most likely refined the long-lost spring return pill. Now that he had seen it, he felt that it was very likely to be the same as his judgment. However, he had only seen the records in the ancient books and had never seen the spring return pill with his own eyes. Therefore, he could not give a definite answer. Hallmaster Sun, what pill is this? Du Feiyang slowly asked. The medicine sect had already lost all faith in the alchemist competition, so he did not mind asking again. Pretending to know when he did not know would only invite more ridicule. Following Du Feiyang's words, everyone present was stunned for a moment. Bailey Hongzhuang had stolen the limelight in the alchemist competition. Everyone was curious as to what pill she had refined. However, even an elder of the medicine sect did not know what pill it was. Wasn't this a little too shocking? Shangguan Yufeng seemed to understand when he heard Du Feiyang's question. It was no wonder that he could not tell. Since even an elder could not tell, it was normal for him to not be able to tell. It was not because he was not skilled enough. Chu Qianni's gaze also fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang had helped him so much previously. He had a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. Sun Yin smiled when he heard Du Feiyang's question. Actually, I can't confirm my judgment either. Saying this, Sun Yin couldn't help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang, his smile kind and amiable. I don't know if this is the long-lost rejuvenation pill. When Sun Yin asked this question, Gu Weisheng's gaze was also fixed on Bailey Hongzhuang. His thoughts were exactly the same as Sun Yin's because this situation was too similar to what had been written in the ancient books. Bailey Hongzhuang gently nodded and her expression was filled with admiration. That's right, it is the spring return pill. This was the first time she had met the hallmaster of the alchemy palace. Based on her knowledge, the spring return pill had disappeared from the Xingxian continent for many years. She never thought that hallmaster Sun Yin's judgment based on the pill's fragrance when refining the pill. It was truly incredible. As the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang fell, the eyes of everyone present changed a bit. Isn't this too amazing? I never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so secretive. It's simply too amazing. I'm really impressed by Bailey Hongzhuang. She's always kept a low profile. At this moment, the Tiangang sect disciples' feelings for Bailey Hongzhuang had turned into worship. Bailey Hongzhuang was undoubtedly the youngest disciple to participate in the alchemist competition. Chapter 2136. Wow, boss is really too cool. Yuan Xiaoman's face was full of excitement. She always knew that boss was a very amazing existence, but today's amazing feat really made people feel happy. Boss's ability is simply amazing. Now the disciples of Tiangang sect have completely changed their view of her. Yuan Zhixin couldn't help but give a thumbs up. Bailey Hongzhuang was really a legendary figure. It was obviously something impossible, but she could do it. It was really amazing. Xia Zhiqing and the others had no other thoughts at the moment except to worship her. For a long time, they had been immersed in the shock brought to them by Bailey Hongzhuang, and now they admired her even more. Shangguan Yufeng's eyes suddenly condensed. He had naturally heard of the name of the rejuvenation pill, but he didn't expect to see Bailey Hongzhuang refining it today. If there was still arrogance in his heart before, at this moment, that arrogance had gradually dissipated. The pill he refined could defeat the ice spirit pill refined by Chu Qianni, but it couldn't defeat the rejuvenation pill refined by Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, Shangguan Yufeng understood that they didn't lose this competition unjustly. Even if the previous incident didn't happen, even if his pill was successfully refined, the final winner would still be Bailey Hongzhuang. He was not her opponent. Gu Fengyan, who was originally dissatisfied, could no longer say anything at this moment. Bailey Hongzhuang's strength was enough to shut him up. How is this possible? Gu Fengyan only felt that it was hard to believe. Bailey Hongzhuang looked like she was in her teens. How could she refine such a high-level pill? He had always felt that his talent in alchemy was good, but he was still a little lacking compared to his senior brother. But now that he had seen Bailey Hongzhuang, his sense of superiority had disappeared. Bailey Hongzhuang was the real genius. Gu Weisheng's eyes also changed. Such a young 6th-grade alchemist, her future was limitless. When did Tiangang sect recruit such a good seedling? He didn't know anything. As the gathering place for pill masters, the medicine sect paid the most attention to genius pill masters. But such a genius alchemist, they actually did not receive any news at all and was poached away by the Heavenly Dipper sect just like that? This was simply inconceivable. He could imagine that if the medicine sect managed to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang, with Bailey Hongzhuang and Shangguan Yufeng, which sect would be able to compete with them in pill refinement? What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang actually grasped the pill formula of a long-lost pill. Although the rejuvenation pill was not a pill that could aid in cultivation, it was still very attractive to cultivators. As long as they took one pill, they would be able to return to their youthful appearance. Who wouldn't want that? A woman's desire was something that even a man couldn't avoid. This was a huge fortune. At this moment, Gu Weisheng's heart could not help but become active. If I can recruit Bailey Hongzhuang into the medicine sect, that would be great. Bailey Hongzhuang, Grade 6 Rejuvenation Pill. Next, I announce that the first place of this year's alchemist competition is Tiangang sect's Bailey Hongzhuang. Following Sun Yin's words, the Tiangang sect disciples present burst into exclamations. Wow! This was truly an exciting piece of news. Chapter 2137. They did not want to miss out on anything related to Bailey Hongzhuang, but they never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would have such a stunning performance in the Pill Master competition. It seems that their daughter had kept a very low profile. She clearly has such great talent, yet she has never mentioned it. Based on Bailey Hongzhuang's age, it was rare for someone to be able to keep such a low profile. Compared to Lan Qingyan's arrogance and haughtiness, Bailey Hongzhuang was much better. Mu Lingbing's heart was filled with complacency. Yu Manlan had thought that she would be able to destroy everything, but her hopes had never been destroyed. On the contrary, she now felt an indescribable sense of pride. Di Beichen's face was filled with a gentle and intoxicated smile. No one could compare to his Hongzhuang. Regardless of the circumstances, her grace was enough to make anyone fall head over heels for her. Ha! Sect Master Gu, we've come out on top this time. Situ Yen laughed heartily. He was already very happy to have been able to achieve such a victory. Besides, the one who had achieved this victory was his maternal granddaughter. He had always known that Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in cultivation was not bad, but he never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang's attainments in pill refinement would be even more stunning and peerless. This had given him a huge surprise. Compared to the current situation, he only felt that everything was quickly changing for the better. Gu Weisheng's face was as black as the bottom of a pot as he stared at Situ Yan's radiant smile. This slap in the face was a great humiliation to him. However, he, who should not have been here, had still come. He could already imagine the mocking laughter of the other organizations when they find out about this. This time, the medicine sect had really gotten off to a bad start. Gu Weisheng's gaze fell upon Bailey Hongzhuang. When he returns, he must investigate Bailey Hongzhuang's identity. If he has the chance, he must work hard to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang into the medicine sect. If they were to miss out on such a genius pill refiner, it would be a reckless waste of God's gift. Let's go. Gu Weisheng suddenly stood up and looked at Shengguan Yufeng and the others with an ashen face. He turned around and walked towards the Tiangang sect's mountain gate. Today, they had completely lost face. The reason why they had stayed was because the alchemist competition hadn't ended yet. If they left just like that, it would be too ungentlemanly. Now that the alchemist competition was over, there was no need for them to stay here and be ridiculed by the crowd. After hearing Gu Weisheng's words, Shengguan Yufeng and the rest of the disciples followed him. In fact, they had long wanted to leave. Staying here for even a second longer made them feel like they were sitting on pins and needles. Now that they had the chance to leave, they felt as if they had been granted amnesty. Du Feiyang and Yao Xinghuai also hurriedly followed. This time, they had lost all face, and the following matters would be the most troublesome to deal with. At the very least, the label of the medicine sect cannot be removed for the time being. Situ Yan did not react to Gu Weisheng's departure. He only watched quietly as Gu Weisheng left. In this match, Tiangang sect won a complete victory. He believed that in the future, Gu Weisheng would not easily set a trap for him. After all, no one was willing to go for wool and come home shorn. Chapter 2138. Bailey Hongzhuang put away the pills and pill cauldron before slowly walking back to the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall's team. The alchemist competition had ended and the alchemist assessment was next. When Qin Ai saw Bailey Hongzhuang walking back to the team, she quietly nodded at Bailey Hongzhuang. Her face was full of praise. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly and walked back to her seat. Everyone's eyes could not help but follow Bailey Hongzhuang. At this moment, everyone felt that Bailey Hongzhuang's entire body was surrounded by a dazzling halo. Today, Bailey Hongzhuang was the Tiangang sect's hero. Chu Qianyi and the other alchemists also walked back to their seats in the pill refinement hall. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's previous results had given them too much of a shock. Chu Qianyi could not help but look at Bailey Hongzhuang. He simply could not believe that Bailey Hongzhuang did not stay in the pill refinement hall and had run off to the cultivation hall. What was Bailey Hongzhuang thinking? If Bailey Hongzhuang was willing to come to the pill refinement hall, he was willing to give up his position as the #1 alchemist to Bailey Hongzhuang. Such a position was meant for those who were capable to occupy it. He had always thought highly of himself. His talent was outstanding and he was hardworking. Regardless of whether it was the elders or the palace master, they all admired him. No one in the entire pill refinement hall was a match for him. He felt that he was the most outstanding genius alchemist. However, after witnessing Bailey Hongzhuang's talent and power, he realized that there was always someone better out there. She was able to refine a level 6 pill at such a young age. Her mental energy was even more shocking. He knew very well that this kind of mental energy was like adding wings to a tiger for Bailey Hongzhuang. The other disciples in the pill refinement hall could only gasp in admiration of Bailey Hongzhuang. Her mental energy was beyond their reach. Sun Yin slowly walked to Qin Ai's side. His usually calm face was now filled with anxiety. Palace Master Qin, your palace has such an outstanding genius alchemist, yet you've kept her a secret. Isn't this too much? Sun Yin stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in dissatisfaction. If it had not been for the alchemist competition today, he would not have known that Bailey Hongzhuang was such an outstanding alchemist. Such an outstanding alchemist had not stayed in the Pill Refinement Hall to study and had actually gone to the Cultivation Hall to cultivate. What a waste of God's gift. The eyes of Yan Kaicheng and the others also fell on Qin Ai. They did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang had such a talent before. Sun Yin was in a daze. Sun Yin was was on. His on. Sun Yin and Sun Yin's on's face. On. On Sun Yin SS. Palace Master Qin, since you found out about this, you should let Bailey Hongzhuang come to the Pill Refinement Hall to cultivate. If you let such an outstanding alchemist seedling cultivate, wouldn't that be a waste of her talent? Sun Yin's expression was serious. After all, the chances of a genius alchemist appearing were much lower than the chances of a genius cultivator appearing. As long as an alchemist's pill refinement skills were powerful enough, they could recruit some cultivators to serve them in the future. This was a profession with limitless potential. After witnessing Bailey Hongzhuang's talent and power today, he had made up his mind. He must recruit Bailey Hongzhuang to the Pill Refinement Hall no matter what. Chapter 2139. Actually, when Qin Ai had seen Sun Yin approaching, he knew that Sun Yin must be here to poach her. Bailey Hongzhuang's performance was so outstanding that it was even more impressive than Chu Qianni, whom Sun Yin had always treated as a treasure. It would be strange if Sun Yin, this old fellow, was not jealous. Besides, Bailey Hongzhuang was still young and her mental energy was strong. Her talent was definitely one level above Chu Qianni's. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was also a genius of their palace. He could not allow Sun Yin to poach Bailey Hongzhuang away just like that. Back then, Bailey Hongzhuang had volunteered to join the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. As the palace master of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall, he had witnessed the improvement of Bailey Hongzhuang's powers. If Sun Yin were to poach her away just like that, how could he continue to show his face? Palace Master Sun, you're wrong. Bailey Hongzhuang is the champion of the assessment competition. It can be seen that her talent in cultivation is not inferior to her talent in pill refinement. Qin Ai hurriedly expressed his opinion. Even if he did not accept Bailey Hongzhuang's identity as the sect master's granddaughter, just Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in cultivation alone was enough to make her worthy of being recruited. He had to admit defeat. Without the sect master's nurturing, Bailey Hongzhuang had relied on her own abilities to reach this stage. Her talent was truly shocking. One should know that in the past, Bailey Hongzhuang did not have the support of abundant cultivation resources. He simply could not imagine that if Bailey Hongzhuang had had sufficient resources in the beginning, she would have grown to such a shocking state. Yan Kaicheng and the rest were shocked and they heard Qin Ai's words. Just as Qin Ai had said, Bailey Hongzhuang had entered the Tiangang sect with extremely outstanding results. She had not relied on her pill refinement skills to obtain first place in the assessment competition. Instead, she had relied on her own abilities as a cultivator. Sun Yin was slightly shocked. He had previously forgotten about this. Because Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in pill refining was simply too stunning. Even if Bailey Hongzhuang's talent in cultivation is very good, her development in alchemy is more promising. Sun Yin had always been a person who loved talents. With such a good seedling, if he didn't have any achievements in alchemy, it would really be a pity. Qin Ai's expression also revealed some difficulty. Previously, he completely did not know that Bailey Hongzhuang had such shocking attainments in alchemy. Logically speaking, most people would only do their best to develop what they were best at. After all, everyone's energy was limited. Rather than working in both areas at the same time and failing to achieve good results in either, it was better to focus on one area and achieve greater results. But who would have thought that a freak like Bailey Hongzhuang would appear? Whether it was alchemy or cultivation, she could develop to such a level. Hall Master Sun, I think we should report this matter to the sect master. Qin Ai and Sun Yin had known each other for such a long time, so he understood Sun Yin's character very well. Once this fellow had set his eyes on a talent, he would definitely pester that person to death and would definitely not leave the matter at that. Bailey Hongzhuang was the sect master's maternal granddaughter. It would be best to report this matter to the sect master and let him make the decision. Based on the sect master's love for Bailey Hongzhuang, he would definitely follow Bailey Hongzhuang's wishes. Bailey Hongzhuang was the eldest young lady of the Tiangang sect. Naturally, she could do whatever she wanted. Seeing that Qin Ai did not have any stance of refusing to let go of Bailey Hongzhuang, Sun Yin felt relieved. Chapter 2140. Usually, such matters could be discussed and decided amongst the palace masters. Of course, they would need to seek Bailey Hongzhuang's opinion. However, there was no need to report such matters to the sect master. He never thought that Qin Ai would actually make such a suggestion. After careful consideration, Sun Yin felt that it was probably because of Bailey Hongzhuang's special status, which was why Qin Ai had made such a decision. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang was the young sect master's sweetheart and she had been given preferential treatment in Tiangang sect. Alright, we shall meet the sect master tomorrow. Sun Yin's face revealed a satisfied smile. No matter who it was, between cultivators and alchemists, they would choose to be alchemists. Only because the conditions to become an alchemist were simply too harsh and it was much easier to become a cultivator. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would definitely like pill refining skills as well. Otherwise, based on Bailey Hongzhuang's age, if she hadn't spent enough effort on pill refining skills, no matter how shocking her innate talent was, it would be impossible for her to achieve such results. Qin Ai and Sun Yin's conversation was not veiled, hence some of the disciples who were standing very close to them could hear it clearly. Instantly, the crowd did not only admire Bailey Hongzhuang, they were even more envious. Two palace masters were fighting over Bailey Hongzhuang. What a great honor this was. If it were them, it would be extremely difficult for them to get familiar with the palace masters, not to mention for the palace masters to recruit them. However, at this moment, even though everyone was envious, they did not have any words of jealousy like before. In the past, they had always felt that the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang was able to receive preferential treatment was entirely because of her relationship with the young sect master. However, everything that had happened today made them understand that Bailey Hongzhuang had relied on her own abilities to obtain this. Hence, they had no reason to be jealous. If they had the same strength as Bailey Hongzhuang, then they would be the ones being fought over right now. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang has really struck it rich. The only thing is, we don't know if she will go to the pill refining hall or stay in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. In my opinion, he's most likely going to the Alchemy Hall. The resources available to the disciples of the Alchemy Hall are much more abundant than ours. Moreover, with Bailey Hongzhuang's pill refining skills, if she were to go to the pill refining hall, she would be the #1 existence. I don't think so. If Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to go to the Alchemy Hall, she would have gone there long ago. Why would she wait until now? There was a lot of discussion among the disciples. Now Bailey Hongzhuang was a famous figure in Tiangang sect. Everyone was very curious about what choice Bailey Hongzhuang would make. Bailey Hongzhuang was standing at the back of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall team. She wasn't too clear about what was happening in front of her. Hongzhuang, you're amazing. Xia Jiqing gave a thumbs up to Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was too domineering when she turned the tide. Bai Junyu also gave a thumbs up, his face flashing with heartfelt admiration. Hongzhuang, if it weren't for you today, I'm afraid that Tiangang sect would have lost a lot of face. Just as Xia Jiqing and Bai Junyu were talking, a group of disciples around Bailey Hongzhuang also echoed. Junior sister Bailey, your performance today is really amazing. You saved the dignity of our Tiangang sect. In the future, the disciples of the medicine sect can no longer be arrogant in front of us. Chapter 2141. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the kind smiles on the faces of the disciples around her, and a smile also appeared on her beautiful face. The friendship in the sect was so simple and pure. When you proved your strength and even saved everyone's dignity, everyone's prejudice against you would disappear. If it was outside, everything would not be so simple. The alchemist assessment soon began. Lu Qinyue and the other alchemists who wanted to become disciples of the alchemy hall had already walked up to the high platform. Situ Yan, Di Beichen, and the rest had already left. Previously, it was a contest between the Tiangang sect and the medicine sect, so they naturally had to be present. As for the alchemist assessment, they obviously would not waste time to pay attention to it. Although Lu Qinyue and the rest knew where the problems were, they were still a little disappointed when they saw Situ Yan and the rest leave just like that. However, no matter what, being able to see the sect master and young sect master on their first visit to the Tiangang sect was already an honor that many people had never had before. After the soul-stirring alchemist competition, the alchemist assessment was obviously not that eye-catching. Many disciples from the branch halls chose to leave. After all, the process of refining pills was really long. They had already stayed here for so long, and now they had to continue staying here. It was really uncomfortable. In fact, the alchemist assessment was originally the alchemy hall's matter. The disciples from the 4 major branch halls were all here to join in the fun. In the previous years, only a small number of cultivators would come to watch the fun. It was impossible for a large number of people to gather here today. The disciples from the alchemy hall still stayed where they were. Every alchemist assessment determined what kind of fresh blood they could recruit. Other than the disciples from the alchemy hall, Bailey Hongzhuang and the rest also did not leave. After all, Lu Qinyue was participating in the assessment. As Lu Qinyue's old friends, they had to support her. After many disciples left, Lu Qinyue naturally saw Gong Shaoqing's figure. The moment she saw Gong Shaoqing, Lu Qinyue's face revealed deep longing and joy. Ever since Gong Shaoqing went to the Tiangang sect, she had done her best to improve her alchemy skills so that she could stay in the Tiangang sect with Gong Shaoqing. She was still confident about today's assessment. Lu Qinyue's performance in this alchemist assessment was extremely outstanding. Not only Lu Qinyue, but there were also several very outstanding alchemists. The alchemy hall appeared to be very happy. There was a certain level of competition between the various halls of the Tiangang sect. Although the competition in the pill refinement hall was not as intense as the other 4 halls, they still had to increase their influence. Most importantly, during the exchange between the sects, they must not drop the ball. The remaining alchemists were naturally extremely happy, but there were also some alchemists who were eliminated. These alchemists could only leave Tiangang sect with a depressed and unwilling face. For such a large force, the selection process was extremely cruel. As long as one's strength was insufficient, there was absolutely no possibility of continuing to stay. Lu Qinyue originally wanted to communicate with Gong Shaoqing and the others, but the disciples of the alchemy hall had already led them to the alchemy hall. Obviously, there was no chance to speak for the time being. Chapter 2142. Shaoqing, you can rest assured that Lu Qinyue has become a disciple of Tiangang sect. Yuan Jixin looked at Gong Shaoqing with a smile. He had already learned about Lu Qinyue from Dongfang Yu and the others. Today, seeing her, Lu Qinyue was really an outstanding person. In my opinion, it's not that simple. Lu Qinyue is a great beauty. In a place like Tiangang sect where disciples gather, I don't know how many people have their eyes on her. Shaoqing, I think you should take advantage of her. Yuan Xiaoman pretended to be mature and patted Gong Shaoqing's shoulder. She had been in Tiangang's sect for so long and knew this very well. As Yuan Xiaoman said, whether it was Yuan Xiaoman or Xia Jiqing, they both had pursuers in Tiangang's sect, not to mention that Lu Qinyue's appearance was even more outstanding. Of course, the reason why no one pursued Beili Hongzhuang was because no one dared to pursue her. Daring to steal the young sect master's woman, wasn't that courting death? It was precisely because of this that Beili Hongzhuang saved a lot of trouble. Gong Shaoqing was still silent and didn't speak. It was really difficult to judge his real thoughts from his expressionless face. Looking at the people gathered together, Beili Hongzhuang smiled and said, "I'll go back first." Hearing this, everyone nodded. Beili Hongzhuang had such an amazing move in the alchemist competition today. They didn't know whether Beili Hongzhuang was affected or not. After all, refining pills was something that consumed a lot of mental energy. Before, Beili Hongzhuang had stayed here because of loyalty. Now that things had been settled, Beili Hongzhuang should go back and have a good rest. "Boss, you have to go back and have a good rest," Yuan Xiaoman said with concern. Beili Hongzhuang smiled, "I'm fine, don't worry." When Beili Hongzhuang returned to the sect master's palace, she found Si Tuyen, Lan Yunxiao, Mu Lingbing, and Di Beichen waiting for her in the courtyard. Seeing this scene, Beili Hongzhuang couldn't help but reveal a hint of surprise in her eyes. "Are you waiting for me?" Beili Hongzhuang asked. Si Tuyen and the others nodded slightly. Beili Hongzhuang's performance today was beyond their expectations. Naturally, they had to get to know her better. "Hongzhuang, your performance today was too amazing. You gave us a big fright." Mu Lingbing's face was full of smiles. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she wouldn't have believed it. "Hongzhuang, I didn't know that you had such amazing attainments in alchemy." Situ Yan's voice was a bit emotional. Before, he just wanted to spoil Beili Hongzhuang, so he didn't ask anything. Who would have thought that Beili Hongzhuang would give him such a big surprise? Beili Hongzhuang felt a surge of warmth in her heart when she saw how worried and happy Si Tuyen and the others were. Everyone trusted her so much. Previously, they didn't know how talented she was in alchemy and just let her do as she pleased. Just this point alone was enough to prove everyone's trust and pampering for her. "Grandfather, my alchemy skills have always been pretty good." Beili Hongzhuang was full of smiles as she slowly walked over to sit beside Si Tuyen and the others. "Since your alchemy skills are so outstanding, why didn't you go to the alchemy hall earlier?" Chapter 2143. To me, the most important thing is to raise my own strength. Alchemy is only one of the things I'm interested in. Beili Hongzhuang's lips curled into a faint smile. She had always thought this through clearly. What she cared about the most was raising her own cultivation. Only with enough strength would she be truly powerful. Only with enough strength would she be able to protect the people she loved. She had a wide range of interests and hobbies. She was very interested in many things, but those were all methods to aid her cultivation. After she became an alchemist, she no longer needed to seek alchemists for pills. Moreover, her identity as an alchemist brought her great convenience. Thus, she had always ensured her own strength before diligently practicing alchemy. All of this was under the premise of ensuring that he could cultivate properly. Letting her only be an alchemist, this was not what she wanted. In Beili Hongzhuang's life philosophy, she wanted to travel north and south, to go to many places. Once she became an alchemist, her ability to protect herself wouldn't be strong. She could only rely on recruiting cultivators to protect herself. In this way, it wouldn't be convenient for her to go anywhere. This wasn't what she wanted. Interest. One aspect. When Si Tuyen and the others heard Beili Hongzhuang's words, they were speechless. This kind of genius alchemist had defeated the alchemists from the medicine sect and Tiangang sect who had devoted themselves to studying alchemy. Now, she actually said that alchemy was only one of the things she was interested in. How were the other alchemists supposed to live? So many years of hard work had all been fed to the dogs. She had obtained such results just by being interested. How were they supposed to endure this? Fortunately, the alchemy hall's disciples weren't here. Otherwise, they would have vomited blood after hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's gazes changed. If Bailey Hongzhuang was only interested in alchemy, how could she have become a 6th-grade alchemist at such a young age? In their opinion, the reason why Bailey Hongzhuang chose to major in alchemy was because she had yet to take revenge. If she was only an alchemist, it clearly wasn't enough. At this thought, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao both felt guilty. Originally, they should have given Bailey Hongzhuang a relaxing environment to grow up in. But, not only did they not give her anything, on the contrary, Bailey Hongzhuang had to endure everything. In fact, she could not even walk the path that she liked. However, the two of them didn't say anything. Bailey Hongzhuang was so sensible that she definitely didn't want them to be sad. Their debt to Bailey Hongzhuang could only be repaid in the future. Hall Master Sun really wants you to go to the alchemy hall, Situ Yen said with a faint smile. Previously, when Sun Yin went to look for Qin Ai, he had noticed it. However, with Sun Yin's character, his actions were within his expectations. Sun Yin was absolutely someone who loved talents. As long as he encountered talented alchemists, then he would pursue them relentlessly. Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled. Although I am interested in alchemy, the most important thing is still cultivation. To her, improving in both areas wasn't a problem at all. Her energy was originally very vigorous. Moreover, with the existence of the desert world, her time had greatly increased. It wasn't a problem for her to take care of both. Chapter 2144. He had wanted to sound out Bailey Hongzhuang's thoughts. If Bailey Hongzhuang was interested in pill refinement, she could join the pill refinement hall. However, Bailey Hongzhuang's attitude was very firm. She prioritized cultivation. In reality, Bailey Hongzhuang had developed very well in every aspect. She was a genius filled with potential. Since Bailey Hongzhuang had already made her decision, he naturally would not change her mind. He believed that Bailey Hongzhuang was interested in pill refinement. However, between the two of them, Bailey Hongzhuang was more interested in raising her cultivation. Yishuan, what method did the medicine sect use today? How did you manage to break it? Lan Yunxiao stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in astonishment. Bailey Hongzhuang's actions today were truly shocking. They were extremely shocked by what they had seen, but they could only roughly guess what method the medicine sect had used. However, they did not know the details. Si Tuyen and Di Beichen stared at Bailey Hongzhuang in confusion. They had never encountered such a situation before. If Bailey Hongzhuang had not managed to break it, the medicine sect would have achieved a great victory this time. This time, it could be said that Gu Weisheng had calculated everything, but he had overlooked Bailey Hongzhuang. In the previous situation, even Si Tu Yen was at his wit's end. The medicine sect had used a formation to gather the mental energy of all the pill refiners together. This way, the pill refiners' mental energy would grow stronger and increase the success rate of pill refinement. However, the mental energy of the pill refiners who do not belong to them would be affected by their mental energy. As a result, their mental energy would become unstable and they would not be able to control the situation in the pill cauldron. Thinking about it, the medicine sect must have planned this for a long time. They must have practiced this many times. As a pill refiner, Bailey Hongzhuang had a good understanding of this field. If this was the first time they had used it, the chances of failure would be very high. After all, every alchemist's mental strength was different. Now that they had to gather together, as long as there was a trace of distrust, it would lead to failure. However, looking at the situation of the medicine sect pharmacists today, it was obvious that they were extremely proficient in this. Only after practicing many times would they be able to achieve such results. Once they heard Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation, Si Tuyen and the others finally understood the situation. The hatred in their hearts towards the medicine sect grew even stronger. Si Tuyen felt that Tiangang's sect should treat the medicine sect as their enemy. The medicine sect had provoked them time and time again. This time, they had even come up with such a despicable method. They were simply trying to completely destroy Tiangang's sect's reputation. Although the two sects were not on good terms, they would not make it too obvious. After all, it was better to leave some leeway behind so that they could meet each other in the future. Everyone had such thoughts. However, the medicine sect has already gone overboard this time. If he were to act as if nothing had happened, wouldn't that mean that he, Si Tuyen, was a coward? They had used all sorts of methods to practice so many times just to ensure that they would fail. How abominable! Hongzhuang, what you did after that was to break the eye of the formation? Di Beichen asked. Bailey Hongzhuang gently nodded. This kind of formation always has a weakness. As long as we can find it, it's not difficult to break it. Daughter, how do you know all this? Chapter 2145. Not only Mu Lingbing, but Si Tuyen and the others also had the same thought. Since Gu Weisheng had done this, it was obvious that he was certain they wouldn't be able to find a solution. He didn't know where Gu Weisheng had obtained this method, but it must have taken a lot of time. As the sect master of the medicine sect, Gu Weisheng's alchemy skills were outstanding. Anything related to alchemy, Gu Weisheng knew about it. Thus, it wasn't strange for Gu Weisheng to know about it, no matter how obscure it was. However, Bailey Hongzhuang also knew about it. This was too strange. Bailey Hongzhuang was startled. Previously, she only knew that this method was obscure, but now it seemed that it was too obscure. I usually like to read ancient books. When I first saw this array, I thought it was very mystical because I had never seen an alchemist use this method to refine pills. Thus, I paid special attention to it. At that time, I only read it as an interesting anecdote. I didn't expect it to really appear in front of me. I used the method recorded in the ancient book to break this array. It seems that reading more books has its benefits. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled to herself. It seemed that it wasn't easy to cover up a lie. Si Tuyen, Mu Lingbing, and Lan Yunxiao didn't doubt Bailey Hongzhuang's explanation. In reality, this kind of thing could only be recorded in ancient books. It was impossible to know about it anywhere else. Only Di Beichen had some understanding. This was probably Bailey Hongzhuang's experience from her previous life. Otherwise, how could Bailey Hongzhuang have broken the array so easily with just a few sentences in the ancient book? Now that the alchemist competition has been perfectly resolved, should we head to Tiangang sect tomorrow? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes shone brightly. Grandmother's matter had always been their greatest concern. Previously, they couldn't go because of the competition. Now that the matter was resolved, they should hurry and take a look. Following Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu Lingbing and the others' eyes brightened. The earlier they went, the earlier they could understand the situation. Although everyone had a bad premonition in their hearts, they would find out sooner or later, so they naturally had to find out. That's right, we'll set off tomorrow. Si Tuyen said decisively. His voice was deep and firm. He had been waiting for this day for many years. It was just that in the past, he had always been like a headless fly, unable to find where he should go. Now that he finally had a clear goal, he didn't want to delay any longer. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other, their expressions showing traces of excitement and nervousness. At night, Bailey Hongzhuang came to Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's room. Seeing Bailey Hongzhuang appear, Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao were both astonished before revealing joyful smiles. Yi Xian, why are you here? Could it be that you can't sleep tonight because you're leaving for the Sun-Moon sect tomorrow? Mu Lingbing pulled Bailey Hongzhuang's hand and pulled her into the house, a loving smile on her face. When Mu Lingbing said this, Lan Yunxiao couldn't help but glance at her. You should be talking about yourself, right? Chapter 2146. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu Lingbing didn't hide her emotions. In reality, ever since she'd found out about this, she'd been feeling uneasy. She'd hoped to see Mu Jin's safe and sound when she returned to Sun Moon Palace. But if Mu Jin's was still alive, then there was no reason not to look for her all these years. Now that she hadn't even gone to Sun Moon Palace, she already had a certain judgment in her heart. My feelings are very complicated right now. I don't know what Yu Xiqing did to my master. Mu Lingbing's gaze was heavy. All these years, Yu Xiqing had used countless methods of torture on them. However, Yu Xiqing hated Mu Jin's the most. She must have used the most insidious methods to deal with Mu Jin's. Bailey Hongzhuang's heart sank. This was the last thing she'd wanted to happen. Grandfather hadn't known about Mu Lingbing's identity, but grandmother had. Since grandmother had gone to the Yu family and never appeared again, then something must have happened. She was very worried. If it was bad news, she was worried that grandfather wouldn't be able to take it. After all, grandfather had been looking for grandmother all these years as a pillar of support. If grandmother was no longer around, then it would be a huge blow to grandfather. If that was the case, then grandfather might as well not know. At least he'd still have some faith in his heart. In that moment, the three people in the room fell silent. They were all familiar with Yu Xiqing's methods, so they couldn't be any clearer. As the atmosphere in the room grew heavier, Bailey Hongzhuang couldn't help but say, "Mother, the situation might not be as bad as we think. Yu Xiqing's personality is very strange. She likes to torture people and see them in pain, but doesn't want to immediately take their lives. So grandmother might have been poisoned or injured." Although this was only a guess, Bailey Hongzhuang felt that it was very likely. She could deduce this from the things Yu Xiqing had done all these years. However, if this was really the case, then Mu Jin's must have suffered greatly all these years. Hearing Bailey Hongzhuang's words, Mu Lingbing's eyes brightened. If possible, she really hoped that was the case. Then, at least she would have a chance to see her master again. She had grown up with her master since she was a child, so one could imagine her feelings for her master. Yi Xian is right. With Yu Xiqing's personality, it's very likely that she would do such a thing. Perhaps Yu Xiqing had poisoned his mother-in-law to trap her in the Sun Moon Palace in order to reduce the possibility of his mother-in-law appearing. After all, father-in-law often went to Yu Xiqing to ask about mother-in-law's situation. It's very possible that Yu Xiqing did this. Lan Yunxiao's eyes flickered with a wise and farsighted light. Based on his understanding of Yu Xiqing over the years, this possibility was very high. However, if her injuries were really that serious, he didn't know if his mother-in-law would be able to hold on after so many years. Mu Lingbing nodded slightly. Bailey Hongzhuang and Lan Yunxiao's words made her feel better. As long as there was a glimmer of hope, they could not give up. She had been living as an orphan for so many years. If she had the chance to reunite with her family, that would be the happiest thing for her. Chapter 2147. Father, Mother, I came here tonight to give this to you. Bailey Hongzhuang took out 2 white porcelain bottles from her Cosmos bag and gave them to Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao. What is this? Lan Yunxiao asked. This is a rejuvenation pill. Bailey Hongzhuang's voice was clear and gentle. She had already thought of this long ago. Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing had suffered under Yu Xiqing's torment all these years. Not only had their bodies been hollowed out, but their appearances had also aged greatly. Compared to cultivators of the same age, Lan Yunxiao and Mu Lingbing were undoubtedly much older. This wasn't something Bailey Hongzhuang wanted to see. She knew the method to refine the rejuvenation pill, so she began to refine it. Coincidentally, the alchemist competition was being held, and the rejuvenation pill was a suitable pill for the competition. She had already successfully refined one pill when she tried to refine it before, and she had successfully refined another one during today's competition. Now, she was giving it to Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao. Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's eyes flashed with astonishment. They never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would give them the rejuvenation pill. Yishuan, this rejuvenation pill is expensive. Keep it for yourself, Lan Yunxiao said. A 6th grade pill's value couldn't be compared to an ordinary pill. Although the rejuvenation pill wasn't helpful to cultivation, its allure wasn't inferior to other pills. On the contrary, cultivators who pursued the rejuvenation pill would be even more fanatical. Mu Lingbing, on the other hand, was envious of the rejuvenation pill. As a woman, who could resist its allure? Bailey Hongzhuang smiled faintly. I refined this pill for the two of you. With my current age, I can't use it, so what's the point of keeping it? We're leaving tomorrow to see grandmother, so it's just right for father and mother to use it tonight. Bailey Hongzhuang winked at Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao, then walked out of the room. She knew that her parents didn't want to burden her, but that didn't matter. Although the value of a grade 6 medicinal pill was high, they could completely afford it. Moreover, she herself was an alchemist, so this was even less of a problem. As she watched Bailey Hongzhuang leave, Mu Lingbing didn't even have time to say anything. Looking at the white porcelain bottle in her hand, Mu Lingbing couldn't help but sigh at the good daughter she had. Turning around, Mu Lingbing saw Lan Yunxiao frowning as he looked at the rejuvenation pill in his hand. He looked like he wanted to talk more with Bailey Hongzhuang. Don't think about it, just eat it, Mu Lingbing said. This was what their daughter had meticulously prepared for them. In fact, they had only been imprisoned by Yu Xiqing for more than 10 years, but they looked a few decades older. Torture would cause one to age quickly. Lingbing, Hongzhuang, Mu Lingbing rolled her eyes. If you don't want it, I'll use it. Tomorrow, you won't look like you're my age. Don't tell me you're with me. With that, Mu Lingbing turned around and walked inside. The heavens were really good to her. At least she had a good daughter. Lan Yunxiao watched helplessly as Mu Lingbing left, but at the same time, he followed her inside. The next day, Bailey Hongzhuang's group was ready to set off. Chapter 2148. The alchemist competition had just ended, so it was likely that all the major powers would soon know the details of the competition. At that time, the Tiangang sect would become the center of attention. At this time, the sect master of the Tiangang sect would be the center of attention if he left with them. Moreover, Yu Xiqing and Lan Jingquang's family would naturally pay close attention to the Tiangang sect's movements, so they couldn't reveal any clues. When Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao appeared before Si Tuyen and the others, their eyes lit up. Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao looked like youths in their 20s. Their original weariness and vicissitudes of life had disappeared without a trace. On the contrary, they were full of energy and radiant. With this look, everyone understood how enviable Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao were in the past. Mu Lingbing was originally a beauty. Her snow-white skin set off her flawless face, making her look like a character from a painting, bright and moving. Lan Yunxiao was even more handsome and elegant. His impeccable features exuded a scholarly and righteous aura. At a glance, he gave off a trustworthy feeling. As he walked, he had an elegant demeanor. Bewitching used to think that since Bailey Hongzhuang was so beautiful, her parents must be stunning figures as well. Today, he saw that it was indeed so. Si Tuyen's eyes flashed with a trace of comfort as he looked at Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao, who were well-matched and energetic. Although Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's appearances were still outstanding, the traces of exhaustion and pain couldn't be hidden. Now, all of that had disappeared as if it had never existed. Thinking carefully, everyone knew that Lan Yunxiao and Bailey Hongzhuang had taken the rejuvenation pill refined by Bailey Hongzhuang. I didn't expect the spring returning pill's effects to be so good. Bewitching's low and charming voice was filled with astonishment. He had only heard of the spring returning pill's fame, but had never seen its effects. After seeing it with his own eyes today, he finally understood the power of this pill. In fact, as long as it was a 6th-grade pill, its effects were extremely shocking. Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao's faces were full of smiles. The rejuvenation pill had been lost for a long time, so they didn't know its effects before. Now that he saw it today, the effect was simply too shocking. Looking at themselves in the mirror, they felt as if nothing had happened in the past 10 years. Everything was still the same. However, although his appearance remained the same, his heart was much more determined than before. After Bailey Hongzhuang helped everyone to disguise themselves, they left Tiangang sect under Situ Yan's lead. This time, Bailey Hongzhuang and others did not leave through the gate of Tiangang sect. It was too eye-catching. There was another passageway in Tiangang sect, which was extremely hidden. Only the sect master and young sect master knew about it. Yesterday, Si Tuyen had already made arrangements for the following matters, including their attitude towards the medicine sect and so on. Originally, he had to stay in Tiangang sect to oversee the overall situation, but now he was not in the mood to continue waiting. He only hoped that he could reach Sun Moon Palace as soon as possible. Nothing else could stop him. Chapter 2149. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 quickly left Big Dipper sect and headed towards Sun Moon Palace. Sun Moon Palace had always been a rather mysterious sect. Although it was quite famous, it rarely interacted with other sections. Therefore, many people didn't know much about Sun Moon Palace. The strangest thing was that Sun Moon Palace didn't usually recruit disciples through the competition, so everyone knew even less about Sun Moon Palace. Fortunately, Mu Lingbing had come from Sun Moon Palace, so she knew a little more about it. If it weren't for Mu Lingbing, it wouldn't be easy for them to find Sun Moon Palace. After all, large sects had their own methods to protect themselves. It was impossible to discover them with the naked eye. In addition, Sun Moon Palace had deliberately disappeared from everyone's sight, so it was even more difficult to find them. Bailey Hongzhuang's group of 5 moved very discreetly. No one noticed them as they left Big Dipper sect's territory. Mother, why has Sun Moon Palace always been so mysterious? Bailey Hongzhuang didn't know much about Sun Moon Palace in the past. She had only heard of its name. Now that she heard everyone's discussion about Sun Moon Palace, she realized that Sun Moon Palace was actually such a mysterious sect. This level of mystery was on par with Slaughter Heaven Pavilion. Sun Moon Palace is a semi-hidden sect, so it's not the same as other sections. It rarely appears in front of the world. However, although Sun Moon Palace used to keep a low profile, it didn't appear like it did now. Mu Lingbing frowned. When she had grown up in Sun Moon Palace, it hadn't been so low-key. In her eyes, Sun Moon Palace was an extremely powerful sect. Its strength wasn't any weaker than some of the more famous sections. It was just that Sun Moon Palace was used to keeping a low profile. However, when Sun Moon Palace had participated in the competition held by the various large sects, Sun Moon Palace's strength hadn't been weak at all. Speaking of which, Sun Moon Palace suddenly became so low-key over a decade ago. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing were talking, Si Tuyen's slightly low voice suddenly sounded. When he said this, the gazes of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others changed. The 4 of them did not know much about the situation. Only Situ Yan knew about the changes in the past 10 years. However, Situ Yan's words were definitely not good news. If Sun Moon Palace had suddenly become low-key over a decade ago, then this timing was too much of a coincidence. If that was the case, then Mu Jinsei was really in trouble. If something happened to the palace lord, it would definitely be a huge problem for the sect. Once the palace master fell and there was no young palace master, the sect would fall into chaos. No one asked further. When Si Tuyen said this, it meant that even Si Tuyen was sure that these two things were related. Situ Yan's gaze was complicated, but his face did not reveal any emotions. In the following days, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others hurried to Sun Moon Palace. If Situ Yan was alone, his speed would definitely be extremely fast. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not keep up with Situ Yan's speed, so they were delayed for some time. Finally, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others arrived at the Sun Moon Palace's territory after traveling without stopping. Chapter 2150. When they heard Mu Lingbing's words, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others' eyes lit up. Along the way, the more they walked, the more deserted they became. They had thought that they would have arrived long ago, but after walking for a long time, they still could not reach their destination. Compared to the Sun Moon Palace's level of concealment, the Tiangang sect's level of concealment was nothing. If Mu Lingbing had not personally led them here, they would have been headless flies and would not have been able to find their exact location. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were wholeheartedly heading towards the Sun Moon Palace, the news of the Pill Master competition between the Tiangang sect and the Medicine sect had already reached the ears of many organizations. Paper cannot contain fire, and the exchange competition between the two sects could not be concealed at all. Many sects were puzzled by the Medicine sect's sudden actions. However, when they found out that the Medicine sect had been completely annihilated this time, their expressions became interesting. The Medicine sect has always been known for their pill refinement skills, but now, they have been defeated by the Tiangang sect in their most prominent area. They've lost a lot of face this time. Speaking of which, the Medicine sect had taken the initiative to organize this Pill Master competition. I heard that Gu Weisheng had even set up a trap so that Situ Yan could not refuse. I never thought that in the end, Gu Weisheng would go for wool and come home shorn. I wonder how depressed he must be now. Do you know the details of the Pill Master competition? The disciples of the Tiangang sect's Pill Refinement Hall may be rather powerful, but it would be impossible for them to completely annihilate the entire Pill Refinement team. You don't know about this. This is all thanks to the future young sect master's wife of the Tiangang sect. There were many disciples in the Tiangang sect. Since they had been in the limelight this time, everyone could not help but spread the news. Even though most of the disciples wanted to stay in the Tiangang sect to cultivate, there were also many disciples who had left to carry out missions. As such, the news naturally spread even more widely. Besides, the Medicine sect's actions had already incurred the displeasure of the Tiangang sect. Hence, the Tiangang sect would not help to cover up the news. On the contrary, the Tiangang sect wanted everyone to know about this. Putting aside the fact that Gu Weisheng had schemed against Situ Yan, he had even schemed against the disciples participating in the Pill Master competition. No wonder the Tiangang sect did not give him face. Because of this, the Medicine sect would have to think twice before scheming against us in the future. Compared to the Tiangang sect, who was flushed with success, the Medicine sect was in a very bad situation. Many organizations were paying close attention to the Medicine sect's movements. Among them, those who were not on good terms with the Medicine sect would naturally take advantage of this opportunity to add insult to injury. Some of the sects who were on good terms with the Medicine sect could not help but ask the Medicine sect about the specific situation. They wanted to know if the information they had obtained from the Tiangang sect was false. Gu Weisheng refused to see any of them. Wasn't this the same as rubbing salt on his wounds? Right now, the Medicine sect was behaving like an ostrich, completely ignoring all inquiries. They could only wait for this storm to pass before appearing again. As soon as Gu Weisheng returned to the Medicine sect, he announced that he would be going into closed-door cultivation. Shangguan Yufeng and the rest were equally embarrassed. When they left the Medicine sect, they were determined to win. The disciples of the Medicine sect were full of admiration for them and were waiting for their triumphant return. In the end, not to mention a triumphant return, they simply returned dejectedly. Chapter 2151. Under these circumstances, the reputation that Shangguan Yufeng and the rest had built up has received a huge blow. Many people began to doubt the power of Shengguan Yufeng and the rest. They were usually so arrogant in the medicine sect, yet they had been utterly defeated in the Tiangang sect. If they had known that this would happen, they would have gone on stage instead. Under these circumstances, Shengguan Yufeng and the rest were no longer able to garner their original respect. Sometimes, they would even hear some sarcastic remarks which made them extremely unhappy. However, in the face of such an outcome, it was useless for them to be unhappy because they had indeed lost. In the medicine sect's meeting hall. Great Elder, have you found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's identity? Gu Weisheng sat gloomily on the main seat. Even though he had announced that he was in closed-door cultivation, how could he possibly cultivate in peace under these circumstances? The medicine sect was a great sect after all. This time, they had been humiliated to such an extent. It was difficult to accept. Reporting to the sect master, I've found out. The great elder replied to Gu Weisheng, but his expression was not very pleasant. Who is Bailey Hongzhuang? Bailey Hongzhuang had stolen the limelight in this pill master competition. If he could recruit Bailey Hongzhuang, he believes that this unfavorable situation would be turned around. Sect Master, I've found out that Bailey Hongzhuang is a disciple who had been recruited by the Tiangang sect during the assessment. Hearing this, Gu Weisheng furrowed his brows in astonishment and confusion. Why would a pill master like her take part in the assessment? The medicine sect has always focused on pill masters and has not paid much attention to matters concerning cultivators. Hence, even though Gu Weisheng was aware of the existence of the assessment, he would not normally pay attention to it. However, Bailey Hongzhuang was clearly a pill master with outstanding talent. She could have entered the sect directly by taking part in the pill master assessment. Why would she take part in the assessment? It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang had been extremely lucky to have survived the assessment. Sect Master, Bailey Hongzhuang is the champion of this year's assessment. The great elder looked a little speechless. In fact, he did not pay much attention to the assessment competition before. He only knew that the first place of the assessment competition went to Tiangang sect. Nobody would have thought that the first place would actually be Bailey Hongzhuang. Hearing this, Gu Weisheng couldn't help but be stunned. He wondered if he had heard wrongly. Bailey Hongzhuang is the champion of the assessment. Isn't she an alchemist? Gu Weisheng had never thought that Bailey Hongzhuang had another identity besides being an alchemist. Sect Master, the information I received cannot be wrong. This Bailey Hongzhuang was the champion of the assessment competition. Moreover, after she entered the Tiangang sect, she had always stayed in the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall to cultivate as a cultivator. She was a member of the Vermilion Bird Palace Hall. Not only that, before this alchemist competition, Bailey Hongzhuang had never shown the talent of an alchemist in Tiangang sect. The great elder reported this specific information to Gu Weisheng. When he first saw this news, he also felt speechless. A 6th-level alchemist actually stayed in Tiangang sect as a cultivator. This was too shocking. Gu Weisheng finally understood what was going on after hearing the great elder's words. No wonder when Bailey Hongzhuang took part in the alchemist competition, all the disciples of Tiangang sect revealed an expression of disbelief. Chapter 2152. Do we have a way to recruit Bailey Hongzhuang? Gu Weisheng furrowed his brows and his expression was unfathomable. From the information he had gathered, he could tell that not only was Bailey Hongzhuang outstanding in her pill refining skills, her abilities were also outstanding. If her abilities were not outstanding enough, it would be impossible for her to obtain first place in the assessment competition. It seems that Bailey Hongzhuang was indeed an exceptional talent. If they could make Bailey Hongzhuang a disciple of the medicine sect, he would definitely nurture Bailey Hongzhuang well. Tiangang sect could not even figure out Bailey Hongzhuang's talents, what more nurturing Bailey Hongzhuang well. Sect leader, I'm afraid that's impossible. The great elder sighed. It would be great if such a talent could be used by them. Unfortunately, when he found out about Bailey Hongzhuang's other identity, he understood that it was impossible. Why? Gu Weisheng stared at the Great Elder in confusion. The Great Elder had always been a radical person. As long as there was a slight possibility, he would never give up. However, the Great Elder had now determined that it was impossible. This was simply too shocking. Sect leader, you may not know this, but Bailey Hongzhuang's other identity is Di Beichen's sweetheart. Gu Weisheng's expression changed when he heard this. This answer had far exceeded his expectations. The rumored future young sect leader's wife of Tiangang sect is Bailey Hongzhuang. Gu Weisheng had an incredulous look on his face. This was something that he had never expected. It was no wonder that the first place in this assessment competition had chosen Tiangang sect without any hesitation. It was because of this relationship. Great senior brother, do you know who Bailey Hongzhuang is? After Gu Fengyan found out about Bailey Hongzhuang, he quickly made his way to Shangguan Yufeng's residence. Ever since he had returned from Tiangang sect, Shangguan Yufeng had obviously been stimulated by Bailey Hongzhuang. He had been in seclusion to refine pills in order to improve his alchemy skills. Gu Fengyan had come to look for Shangguan Yufeng a few times, but Shangguan Yufeng had not even opened the door. After Gu Fengyan said this, he saw that the door was still closed. He sighed in his heart and prepared to leave. It seemed that great senior brother was going to be in seclusion for a long time. Just as Gu Fengyan was about to leave, the door suddenly opened. What have you found out? Shangguan Yufeng looked at Gu Fengyan with a burning gaze. He did not care about anything else and went straight to the point. Gu Fengyan was slightly surprised. Eldest senior brother, so this Bailey Hongzhuang is Tiangang Zong's future young lord's wife. Great senior Bailey Hongzhuang Longs was the great elder, of course, Bailey Hongzhuang, Long. He was wondering how it was possible for Bailey Hongzhuang to have such powerful alchemy skills at such a young age. It turned out that she had such an identity. With so many resources from Tiangang sect, although it was still shocking that Bailey Hongzhuang could reach such a level, it made him feel better. However, Gu Fengyan's next sentence made Shangguan Yufeng's face turn ugly again. I found out that Bailey Hongzhuang is not only an alchemist, she is even more powerful. She is the first place in this assessment competition and entered Tiangang sect with this identity. Chapter 2153. Gu Fengyan had been extremely displeased with Bailey Hongzhuang, but after learning about her true situation, his displeasure dissipated. Instead, he began to admire Bailey Hongzhuang. It was hard not to admire a true genius. Shangguan Yufeng's face was as dark as water, and his eyes were filled with malice. A woman from the countryside had actually defeated her so thoroughly. His self-esteem and pride had been completely shattered in that moment. Mu Lingbing led everyone to Sun Moon Palace's array. In the past, she had a personal token that allowed her to enter Sun Moon Palace directly, but now she had nothing. Thus, Mu Lingbing could only shout loudly for the Sun Moon Palace disciples to come out. Before that, everyone had already reverted to their original appearances. If they had come here as strangers, Sun Moon Palace probably wouldn't have let them in. Sun Moon Palace's Mu Lingbing requests an audience with the palace master. Mu Lingbing's voice was loud and clear. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others waited quietly, hoping that the Sun Moon Palace disciples would come out. After waiting for a while, sure enough, two disciples appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang and the others. Who are you? The two disciples dressed in Sun Moon Palace's robes sized up Bailey Hongzhuang and the others warily. Sun Moon Palace had always been extremely secretive. If one wasn't related to Sun Moon Palace, they wouldn't be able to find this place. I am Sun Moon Palace's Mu Lingbing, Mu Lingbing said seriously. Hearing Mu Lingbing's words, the two disciples paused for a moment. After carefully sizing up Mu Lingbing, their expressions were still somewhat suspicious. Senior sister Mu left Sun Moon Palace more than 20 years ago and hasn't appeared in all these years. How can you prove that you are senior sister Mu? These two disciples were very young and obviously didn't know Mu Lingbing. However, they were aware of Mu Lingbing's reputation. I am Mu Lingbing, why do I need to prove it? However, the two disciples ignored Mu Lingbing's words. Mu Lingbing looked so young. How did she look like senior sister Mu? Mu Lingbing felt a wave of helplessness as she watched the two disciples confront her. Speaking of which, she had indeed not returned for too many years, so it was normal that these disciples did not recognize her. You can invite the Great Elder here. The Great Elder will naturally prove my identity. Is the Great Elder someone you can meet just because you want to? The two disciples said righteously. With the Great Elder's status, they wouldn't be able to see him normally. Not to mention going up to report it, they would probably be punished as well. In response, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. This situation really made them feel helpless. I'll go with you and request an audience with the first elder, Mu Lingbing said. The two disciples looked at each other. They also felt helpless in the current situation. If it was an ordinary person, they would have chased him away long ago. They were well aware of senior sister Mu's status in the Sun Moon Palace. If the other party was really senior sister Mu, then their actions were inappropriate. After thinking about it, this was probably the only way. Alright, you follow us. The rest of you, wait here. Mu Lingbing nodded. Alright. Wait here for me. Once I confirm my identity, I'll come get you, Mu Lingbing said. Chapter 2154. Mu Lingbing followed the two disciples into the Sun Moon Palace. She couldn't help but sigh as she looked at the familiar yet slightly changed scenery. She had grown up here since she was young, so she was very familiar with everything here. However, after she had left, she had never thought that it would take so many years for her to return. Everything that had happened here seemed like yesterday. She had always thought of the Sun Moon Palace as her home. The two disciples were constantly on guard against Mu Lingbing, afraid that she wasn't the real senior Mu. If anything happened, they wouldn't be able to bear the consequences. Thankfully, they noticed that Mu Lingbing didn't do anything out of the ordinary. On the contrary, there was a look of nostalgia on her face. Very quickly, they arrived at the Sun Moon Palace. After the two disciples briefed him on Mu Lingbing's situation, they handed her over to the other disciples to inform the first elder. They were just disciples on guard duty and couldn't be away for too long. Mu Lingbing was very familiar with the rules of the Sun Moon Palace. She quietly followed behind the disciples, waiting for their report. You stay here and watch over her. I'll inform the Great Elder. One of the disciples turned to the disciple beside him. Mu Lingbing stood there quietly, waiting. She couldn't wait to see the first elder. She believed that the first elder would know everything that had happened all these years. When Gu Jinghe heard that Mu Lingbing wanted to see the Great Elder, her first reaction was that it was impossible. Mu Lingbing had disappeared for so many years and had been imprisoned in the Yu family. There was no way she could have left. However, the disciple's message was clear. Mu Lingbing wanted to see the Great Elder. Gu Jinghe couldn't care less about the Great Elder's demeanor. She rushed out of the room like a gust of wind. This was the first time that the disciple had seen the Great Elder so absent-minded. In the blink of an eye, the Great Elder had disappeared from her sight. She couldn't help but be stunned. What was going on? Mu Lingbing was waiting outside when she suddenly sensed an aura rapidly approaching. It was an aura that she was very familiar with. Lingbing, it really is you. Gu Jinghe looked at Mu Lingbing in shock. She couldn't believe her eyes. However, this stunning woman was clearly the Mu Lingbing she had watched grow up. Great Elder. Mu Lingbing couldn't contain her excitement when she saw Gu Jinghe. After so many years, she was finally reunited with her family. First Elder and her master were as close as sisters. Gu Jinghe had always treated her well since they were young. In the past, when she made a mistake and was punished, it was always Gu Jinghe who protected her. Gu Jinghe had always been her family. Gu Jinghe walked up to Mu Lingbing and sized her up carefully. She couldn't help feeling suspicious. Lingbing, how did you come back? Gu Jinghe found it hard to believe. Everything that had happened was too unbelievable. Back then, they had tried to rescue Mu Lingbing, but Qin Gong had failed. Now, Mu Lingbing had returned on her own. It's a long story. The situation was far too complicated to be explained in a few words. Mu Lingbing quickly asked, First Elder, how is my master? Chapter 2155. When she heard Mu Lingbing's question, Gu Jinghe's expression turned ugly and hesitant. When she saw Gu Jinghe's expression, Mu Lingbing's heart sank. This was the outcome she didn't want to see the most. She had grown up by Mu Jin's side and didn't know that Mu Jin's was her mother. Now that she had found out, she didn't even have a chance to see Mu Jin's. Why were the heavens so cruel? They weren't even given a chance to reunite. Mu Lingbing's face turned pale. Her mother had died trying to save her, and it was all because of Yu Xiqing. If she had been more careful back then, if she had discovered Yu Manlin's scheme earlier, none of this would have happened. However, she had been too foolish in the past. She had trusted the people around her, and that was why she had sunk into such a state of remorse. When Gu Jinghe saw Mu Lingbing's soulless expression, she hurriedly said, Lingbing, the situation isn't what you think. The palace lord hasn't died. Gu Jinghe's words reignited Mu Lingbing's hope, and she gripped Gu Jinghe's hand tightly. Great Elder, is what you say true? Mu Lingbing looked at Gu Jinghe with shining eyes, as if she was her last hope. As long as her master was still alive, she would have a chance to reunite. Gu Jinghe nodded. It's a long story, let's go inside first. There were many disciples coming and going, and they couldn't help but pay more attention to them when they saw them like this. When the disciples of Sun Moon Palace saw the sudden appearance of an unfamiliar face, and the appearance of the Great Elder at that, they all felt a strong sense of disbelief in their hearts. The Great Elder had always been the embodiment of dignity. When had she ever revealed such a gentle expression? Mu Lingbing naturally knew that this wasn't a good place to talk, but when she heard Gu Jinghe's words, she said, Great Elder, I didn't come alone this time. There are others waiting at the foot of the mountain. Can you let them come up first? Gu Jinghe frowned when she heard this. Sun Moon Palace had never allowed outsiders to enter. Lingbing, you should know the rules of Sun Moon Palace. First Elder, they are not outsiders. They are my family. Mu Lingbing hurriedly explained. She couldn't be more familiar with the rules of the Sun Moon Palace. However, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were her family, so they weren't considered outsiders. As soon as these words came out, Gu Jinghe's eyes widened a bit, revealing a bit of surprise. Then I'll go with you to pick them up. Thank you, Grand Elder. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were waiting at the foot of the mountain. They didn't know what kind of changes had happened to the Sun Moon Palace after more than 20 years. If Mu Jinsei had really fallen, Mu Lingbing didn't know if it would be dangerous for her to go up alone. While Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were worried, Mu Jinsei and another middle-aged woman appeared in front of them. Gu Jinghe clearly didn't expect there to be such a group of people at the foot of the mountain. She thought Mu Lingbing's only family was Lan Yunxiao. So who were these extra people? Gu Jinghe looked at Lan Yunxiao. She had personally attended Mu Lingbing's wedding, so she recognized Lan Yunxiao. It looked like Mu Lingbing and Lan Yunxiao had escaped the clutches of the devil this time. Chapter 2156. Lingbing, who are they? Gu Jinghe looked at Mu Lingbing suspiciously. Great Elder, this is my daughter and son-in-law, Mu Lingbing introduced Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen. As soon as these words came out, Gu Jinghe's pupils couldn't help but dilate. Her eyes were filled with deep shock. They all knew about the tragedy back then, but it was a pity that they found out about it too late. Yu Xiqing and Lan Jingquang had obviously been on guard against them, so everything had been done in secret. By the time they had found out, it was too late. They couldn't even find a trace of Mu Lingbing and the others. As for the child in swaddling clothes, they had thought that there was no way he could have survived. But they never thought that he would appear before her again. When Gu Jinghe saw the resemblance between Bailey Hongzhuang and Mu Lingbing, she no longer had any doubts. She never thought that after so many years, Mu Lingbing and the others would be reunited one day. It was truly delightful. Finally, Gu Jinghe's gaze landed on Si Tu Yen. She felt that Si Tu Yen looked very familiar, but she couldn't recall who he was. Then, who is this? Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen were Mu Lingbing's daughter and son-in-law, so this man was obviously not related to Mu Lingbing. Hearing Gu Jinghe's question, Mu Lingbing slowly said, "He is my father." These words were like a balm that caused ripples in Gu Jinghe's heart. She looked at Si Tu Yen in shock. She had thought that Si Tu Yen looked very familiar, but after hearing Mu Lingbing's words, she completely understood. Si Tu Yen. Wasn't this the sect leader of Tiangang's sect? However, after a short moment of shock, Gu Jinghe's gaze turned to one of disgust. What is such a heartless man doing here? Gu Jinghe and Mu Jin's were like sisters, so she naturally understood Mu Jin's situation very well. Si Tu Yen, this ungrateful heartless man, had let Mu Jin's down for so many years, and now he was here to acknowledge her as his daughter. What a joke! Faced with Gu Jinghe's attitude, Si Tu Yen wasn't surprised. In fact, he was indeed a heartless man. He had let Mu Jin's down for so many years, making her carry everything on her shoulders until now. He was a sinner. Get lost. Sun Moon Palace does not welcome you. Gu Jinghe's anger completely exploded. This bastard had let down Mu Jin's for her entire life. When she first met Mu Jinsei had a sad appearance. That kind of sadness spread from the bottom of her heart, making anyone who saw it couldn't help but feel sorry for her. She watched as Mu Jinsei struggled to support everything by herself. She helped Mu Jinsei deliver the child, but from the beginning to the end, she had never seen Si Tu Yen. Originally, she thought that Mu Jinsei's husband had already fallen, which was why she was so worried. However, after she found out about everything, she felt that Si Tu Yen was so trustworthy. Mu Jinsei was a beautiful woman with outstanding talent. She should have been doted on and lived a good life. However, all of this was ruined by Si Tu Yen. She had hoped that with the passage of time, Mu Jinsei would slowly get better. However, she had never forgotten Si Tu Yen. She hated Si Tu Yen, but there was still a trace of love in the depths of her heart. Chapter 2157. She had once advised Mu Jin's that a heartless man like him was not worth remembering. Unfortunately, an outsider would always be an outsider. Without personally experiencing it, she would never understand the obsession in Mu Jin's heart. Watching Mu Lingbing slowly grow up and hearing Mu Lingbing complain about her biological parents abandoning her, she would see Mu Jin silently weep. Every time this happened, she would feel that Si Tu Yen was a bastard. Not to mention how amazing the sect master of Tiangang sect was, in her eyes, he was a despicable and shameless heartless man. Even after Mu Lingbing was in danger, Mu Jin was not willing to see Si Tu Yen. From this, it could be seen how much Mu Jin hated Si Tu Yen. Or perhaps, she was afraid of seeing Si Tu Yen's disdainful gaze. However, Si Tu Yen had actually appeared here now. Looking at Gu Jinghe's surging anger, Mu Lingbing hurriedly said, "First Elder, things are not what you think. Father has his own difficulties." Mu Lingbing understood that First Elder had always fought for justice for Master. Seeing Si Tu Yen's reaction now was within her expectations. What difficulties? What difficulties would make him abandon Jins? Gu Jinghe furiously said. However, after saying this, Gu Jinghe's gaze involuntarily fell on Mu Lingbing. You already know. Mu Lingbing slightly nodded. Yun Xiao and I were able to escape from the devil's claws this time because Father and Yishuan came to save us. Otherwise, I would still be in that dungeon without seeing the light of day. First Elder, Father was deceived by Yu Siqing back then and did not intend to let Master down. Hearing Mu Lingbing's words, the anger in Gu Jinghe's heart did not dissipate, but at least she recovered some rationality. Bailey Hongzhuang and Di Beichen looked at each other. From Gu Jinghe's angry appearance, it could be seen that she treated Mu Jin's very well. Otherwise, she would not be so angry. First Elder, let's return to the sect first and talk properly, Mu Lingbing hurriedly said. She knew that First Elder had always complained about injustice for Master all these years and could not control herself after seeing Si Tuyen today. However, she had to find an opportunity to explain. Gu Jinghe looked at Si Tuyen and snorted coldly. She then turned around and walked towards Sun Moon Palace. Seeing Gu Jinghe walk into Sun Moon Palace, Mu Lingbing smiled and said to Bailey Hongzhuang and the others, let's go up first. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others followed closely behind. During this process, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others could not help but size up Si Tuyen's expression. Si Tuyen was usually the high and mighty Tiangang sect master. Now that he was scolded as soon as he came here, Si Tuyen presumably felt very uncomfortable in his heart. However, Si Tuyen's expression remained the same. Clearly, Si Tuyen had already thought about all of this before coming to the Sun Moon Palace, so he wasn't displeased at all. He owed Mu Jin for so many years, so it was normal for him to be humiliated. He had come here to apologize. Seeing Si Tuyen like this, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were relieved. This time, Si Tuyen's suffering was unavoidable. However, it was still good that he had entered the Sun Moon Palace's gates. When the Sun Moon Palace's disciples saw this group of strangers suddenly enter, their eyes filled with surprise. Their Sun Moon Palace had never allowed outsiders to enter. Who were these people? Chapter 2158. Inside the hall, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others each found a place to sit down. However, Gu Jinghe's attitude was still the same as before. She looked at Si Tuyen with an unfriendly gaze. Obviously, the dissatisfaction and disgust that had accumulated over the years could not be erased in a short period of time. Gu Jinghe had already made a certain concession by allowing them to enter Sun Moon Palace. Si Tuyen naturally knew that he was not happy to be under her control and looked at, so he only sat quietly to the side and did not say anything. Now that you've all come in, you can tell me what difficulties you have. Gu Jinghe's expression was cold. She did not believe that Si Tuyen had any difficulties. What difficulties could have caused him to let Mu Jins down for so many years? Moreover, when Mu Jins left, she was already pregnant with his child. As long as he was a man, he would not abandon Mu Jins at a time like this. The most shameless thing was that Si Tuyen had let Mu Jins down because he liked Mu Jins' good friend. What did this man take Mu Jins for from the beginning? Si Tuyen raised his head and looked at Gu Jinghe. He had made too much of a mistake back then, but it was difficult for him to say it in front of others. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at each other. They naturally knew what Si Tuyen was thinking. No matter what, Si Tuyen was the dignified sect leader of Tiangang sect. Moreover, the matter back then was so complicated. It was not appropriate to say it in front of a woman. First Elder, let me tell you about this matter. Mu Lingbing gave Gu Jinghe a look. It was most appropriate for her to tell the First Elder the whole story. Gu Jinghe saw that Si Tuyen was still trying to cover things up at this time. It was obvious that he was not sincerely remorseful, and this made her even angrier. Back then, when he abandoned his wife, he did not feel embarrassed. Now that he has to say it out loud, he feels embarrassed. Mu Lingbing walked to Gu Jinghe's side and said, First Elder, this is a long story. Let me tell you slowly. If my father is really such a person, with my personality, how could I possibly forgive him? Hearing Mu Lingbing's words, Gu Jinghe looked deeply at Mu Lingbing. Thinking of how Mu Lingbing used to be angry at her parents for abandoning her, the anger in her heart dissipated slightly. Indeed, if even Mu Lingbing could accept all of this, what else could she not accept? At Mu Lingbing's request, Gu Jinghe followed her to another room, leaving Bailey Hongzhuang and the others to wait in the hall. What Si Tu Yen was concerned about right now was obviously not this, but Mu Jinsei's current situation. As they were walking up the mountain, Mu Lingbing had already told them that Mu Jinsei had not perished. It was precisely because of this news that everyone was somewhat patient. Even so, they still urgently wanted to know about Mu Jinsei's situation. I wonder how Grandma is doing now. Bailey Hongzhuang's elegant face was filled with worry. According to what Mu Lingbing had told her, Mu Jinsei's situation was not good. If this first elder doesn't know the origin of all this, I'm afraid he won't tell us the details. Now, we can only wait. Chapter 2159. Bailey Hongzhuang and the others sat there quietly, but they couldn't help but think about Mu Jin's current situation. Inside the room, Mu Lingbing told Gu Jinghe everything that had happened. Gu Jinghe had always treated her and her master with sincerity, so it wasn't a big deal to tell Gu Jinghe about this. When Gu Jinghe learned of all this, she was also dumbfounded. Is what you're saying true? Gu Jinghe couldn't help but ask again. Mu Lingbing nodded seriously. It's true, it's all true. It wasn't just father who said this. All these years, when I was imprisoned by Yu Siqing, she told me the truth herself. From the beginning to the end, it was Yu Siqing who had been playing tricks. His father had been deceived, but he soon realized the truth. All these years, father has been searching for master, but he hasn't been able to find any trace of her. Gu Jinghe was stunned. This news was too shocking and she couldn't digest it. She only knew from Mu Jin's that Si Tu Yen was a heartless man. He had clearly been with her, but had suddenly said cruel words to her, saying that he wanted to be with Yu Siqing. When Mu Jin's had left, Si Tu Yen hadn't even tried to keep her. All these years, whenever Mu Jin's thought of Si Tu Yen and Yu Siqing standing together, her heart would ache so much that she found it hard to breathe. After finding out about this, she had also paid attention to Si Tu Yen's situation. She didn't know why Si Tu Yen hadn't been with Yu Siqing, but she felt that they deserved it. It turned out that it was all a misunderstanding. Si Tu Yen wasn't a heartless man. It was only because of Yu Siqing's machinations that they had misunderstood for so many years. If this was just Si Tu Yan's one-sided story, Gu Jinghe wouldn't have believed it. But if Yu Siqing had said the same thing, then it could only be true. Gu Jinghe finally understood why Mu Lingbing had forgiven Si Tu Yen. Decades had passed, but Si Tu Yen had never given up on Mu Lingbing. This proved that she was equally infatuated with Si Tu Yen. Mu Lingbing hadn't loved the wrong person. Si Tu Yen was also true to her. It was just that he had been blinded at that time, causing them to miss out on so many years. When Gu Jinghe and Mu Lingbing returned to the meeting hall, Gu Jinghe's attitude had clearly improved. Seeing the change in Gu Jinghe's attitude, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were relieved. It seemed that Gu Jinghe also believed everything they said. Although Gu Jinghe already knew the reason for all of this, she still did not have a good attitude towards Si Tu Yen. After all, if Si Tu Yen had not made such a stupid mistake back then, it would not have led to so many tragedies. Si Tu Yen also understood this. He had never denied his mistakes, but he had made a huge mistake back then. Great Elder, can you tell us about Master's current situation now? Mu Lingbing asked the question that everyone was most concerned about. They had come back for their master. As soon as he said that, Bailey Hongzhuang and the others looked at Gu Jinghe, waiting for her answer. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.